Thank you, everybody from Cox Communications. We really appreciate your participation for the first time in this event and hope we will see you in our future editions of the event. With this, I would like to welcome Dr. Brian Canada from USC Beaufort to moderate the third session.
Hello,
Brian.
good. Maybe I want to make sure I'm not muted. Okay, great. My name is Brian Canada. I'm the chair of the Department of Computer Science and Mathematics at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort, also known as USCB. I just want to briefly mention, for those of you that are not familiar with USCB, it's a senior comprehensive campus of the USC system, located in the beautiful South Carolina Low Country, about midway between Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia. USCB has a new undergraduate program in cybersecurity that exists as a concentration within our information science and technology baccalaureate major. Our cyber curriculum has been designed to align with federal requirements for certification as a center of academic excellence in cyber defense, also known as CAE-CD, as dictated by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the National Security Agency. And we've just opened up a brand new state-of-the-art cyber computing lab designed to support courses in advanced network security, digital forensics, and ethical hacking. And this was funded by a $1.3 million grant from the U.S. Department of Defense. Speaking of federal funding, I'm proud to let you all know that USCB is the lead institution on a newly awarded $1 million planning grant from the National Science Foundation's new program called Regional Innovation Engines. And that funding will go to support a statewide initiative to develop potentially commercializable technology related to advancements in maritime cybersecurity, including advancements in AI and machine learning. In the interest of time, I'll just leave it there. But for more information, please visit uscb.edu/CS. And you'll find our contact information on there. And you can also find me on LinkedIn as well. Anyway, thank you for indulging me. But now we're at our feature presentation for session 3. It's my honor to introduce our panel of distinguished guest speakers to speak on our session topic, which is artificial intelligence and ChatGPT in cybersecurity and hacking. I'll first mention Dr. Kyle Saleeby. He holds the title of Research Engineer 2 with the MARC Callaway Manufacturing Research Center in the Georgia Tech Manufacturing Institute. So we have somebody from the home team here. He holds MS and Ph.D. degrees in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech. He specializes in digital manufacturing, hybrid manufacturing, industrial sensors, and Industry 4.0, as well as smart manufacturing architectures and manufacturing cybersecurity. Following Dr. Saleeby's remarks, we'll hear from Dharmanandana Reddy. He's a cybersecurity expert and researcher from India who specializes in AI-driven innovations in cybersecurity. And he's the instructor for a new course on Udemy entitled Mastering AI for Cyber Threat Detection, as well as several other related online courses. And that's how I found out about him. He holds advanced degrees in AI, machine learning, and computer networks, and has more than 20 years of experience in cybersecurity. And our last speaker of the day, our last panelist, will be Dr. Abhishek Parakh. He's the director of the Computer Science Ph.D. program at Kennesaw State University in Kennesaw, Georgia. He holds a Ph.D. in computer science from Oklahoma State University, and in his current faculty appointment at Kennesaw, he teaches a graduate level course on cryptography and its applications. And his research specialties include quantum computing, quantum networks, post-quantum cryptography, and related topics. So we'll get started with Dr. Kyle Saleeby. Again, he's representing the Georgia Tech Manufacturing Institute. I believe Ani may have his slides, and Ani will advance the slides on Kyle's behalf. So Kyle, I think I saw you logged in. Feel free to take it away whenever you're ready.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's great to be here and great to speak with you all today. So as Brian mentioned, my name is Kyle Saleeby, and I'm a research staff member at the Georgia Tech Manufacturing Institute. Our purpose here is to translate academic research into industrial realization, serving as a scale-up facility from some of the base level, TRL level 1 through 3 benchtop prototypes, if you will, all the way up to TRL levels 7 and 8. While we don't do full production, we will do test runs to prove out concepts, prove out both technological advances, as well as new methods of manufacturing. Now, obviously, we're here today to talk about manufacturing cybersecurity, and in particular, the influences of AI and ChatGPT over top of this. So I'd like to set a baseline on the next slide and talk for about 5 or 6 minutes of how our research institution works with cybersecurity, particularly in the manufacturing field. So if you don't mind, go ahead and advancing those slides. Cybersecurity as a general theme is really a risk assessment. It's how much risk are you willing to tolerate? And at that risk level, what are you willing to lose? Now, this is obviously a very different scenario from maybe a financial world or a software world where in some cases, in manufacturing, human lives are at stake. So it's not only just taking over a network or gaining access to proprietary information or IP or any type of process knowledge that's critical. It's controlling machines and moving robotics and disengaging safety circuits, and in our case, firing lasers and high-powered electronics. So this is the efforts of cybersecurity is really, really serious at the start of anywhere, but even more so from a critical personnel safety approach within manufacturing. So part of our research and what we look at is what is the right level of risk for manufacturing operations? Can you accept zero compromise systems, or can you accept a few compromised systems? What systems need much more protection versus ones that are more relatively open, so on and so forth. And then that on the next slide, what you naturally care about is the different levels of repairability and the different levels of harm in each of these manufacturing systems. So as the field has progressed, we've seen a dramatic change in effect of the cost of information. So if you look at it, if you'll advance 4 times, please. The price of a standard credit card detail on the black market right now is about 50 cents per record. But if you look at the price of personal information details, you're up to about $200 per record of information. Now let's expand this into a manufacturing approach, right? It's pretty easy to reset your credit card. It's pretty easy to wipe that information, get something new. And I mean, it's almost a trivial process these days from a simple text message on your phone to the bank. But like personal information, a social security number, that's very hard to change. Manufacturing equipment and manufacturing infrastructure is the exact same way. Now, if we look across the industry, the rise of AI has dramatically increased the amount of attacks. On the next slide, you'll see a pretty shocking graph that close to 25% of all cyber attacks worldwide are against manufacturing institutions. Those are closely followed by finance and insurance, and then of course other professional services as well. And if you look at a manufacturing operation, most of those attacks take on the order of 3 weeks. One more advance, please. 3 weeks to actually recover and achieve normal nominal operations from the point of attack. Now, some of these attacks are changing from particularly the artificial intelligence point of view, where it's much easier. You can find the insignificant vulnerabilities. You can find the standard common denial of service attacks. Other things that are almost mindless these days, just with the tools at hand from artificial intelligence. So it's a really interesting and also scary phenomenon. Manufacturers are at risk, almost more so than anyone else. And the downtime that they're facing is only growing. I put up a slide up here on the next one about notable cybersecurity attacks. I think this audience is very, very well familiar with it. So we can go ahead and skip this one and move on to slide number 6. As we're looking at different artificial intelligence methods, I've talked a lot about the attack side, but on the defense side, we've made equally interesting and powerful advances. So on the next slide, one of the things that becomes pretty important to manufacturers is what's called time series analysis. This is a very standard data analytics approach that has been used for probably a decade and a half at minimum, if not much longer, to track different trends within industry and finance and information technology. When we apply it to manufacturing, what we can do is start to create energy signatures. In the same way that you can learn what the right ways to attack are and automate those with artificial intelligence approaches, you can learn how to defend against them with artificial intelligence approaches. This in turn creates a thumbprint. This is kind of the unique signature of a manufacturing process. And this is a contrived example that you see right here. The top run is the load on the system over time over a period of about an hour, as a matter of fact, as we are making one component on our manufacturing equipment. At the front, you can see a time shift where an operator paused the process. And at the end, you can see a time discrepancy where something was changed. And we help develop these methods of intelligence, these methods of recognition to actually understand what the differences are and hopefully detect attacks as they're happening so that we can mitigate the effects. This both improves the bottom line of a manufacturing operation from just an efficiency standpoint, understanding what your process is doing over time, regardless of an attack, but also it allows you to distinguish what is maybe a malicious change versus a non-malicious change. On the next advance, you can see this stacked up over time as we start to compare and aggregate data sets. There's a column here with a histogram showing the energy distribution on the load. Go ahead and advance, please, one more time. You'll see this stacked up over time as we're making parts, both with intentional attacks and under a nominal steady state operation. And on the final slide, just to wrap things up from the AI perspective, we start to look at this energy consumption as a method of both efficiency and otherwise sustainability for manufacturing, but also from a defense perspective. These two plots that you see are kind of a cross-load plot where in each position of the manufacturing operation, how much energy is being used. So imagine you take a standard graph, XYZ. If I'm working on this one section of a component, what amount of energy should I be using? And over time, as you aggregate that and store it in a database and start to train some of these machine learning and artificial intelligence models, you can create a profile of what the machine should be doing at any point or any location on the overall process. So this is a quick overview of some of the tools that we are developing at the GTMI Research Institute to help both prevent attacks and also expand the current capabilities of manufacturers. So on the last slide, to summarize, manufacturing is a huge component of our industry and of our economic base. There is a huge problem with cybersecurity, mainly because a lot of this technology is relatively old in comparison with the computers and phones, these days. And the workforce is really not prepared to take it on. One of my favorite things is walking through a shop and seeing a cell phone like this plugged into a multi-million-dollar controller for a specific piece of manufacturing equipment. I mean, you're just asking for it at that point in time, right? Many of these silly failures can be avoided with modern protocols, and some of the more advanced ones we hope to detect and mitigate through the use of these artificial intelligence methods. So Brian, with that, thank you for your time. I will turn it back over to you for an introduction and presentation by the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Kyle. That was awesome. And as a former engineer who worked in industry previously in the process industries, I have a few questions for you, but I'll save those for the Q&A at the end. In fact, I want to encourage the audience to, when you think of a question, go ahead and click on the Q&A link at the bottom of your Zoom window and have that ready to be answered when we get to the Q&A after all of our speakers have finished their introductory remarks. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Saleeby. I think that was really, really cool. Let's move on to Dharmanandana Reddy Potula. He's going to be talking to us about the paradox of progress, AI, ChatGPT, and the threat of malicious hacking. Take it away, Mr. Reddy, whenever you're ready, Mr. Reddy.
Thanks, Professor Brian, for a brief introduction. Hello, everyone. So I'm thrilled to be here today to delve into a topic that sits at the intersection of innovation and security, the paradox of progress, AI, ChatGPT, and threat of malicious hacking. In this rapidly evolving digital landscape, we are witnessing extraordinary advancements in AI and language models like ChatGPT. As you all know, these technologies are revolutionizing industries, transforming how we interact with the world. But as with all progress, there is a flip side. The same tools that drive innovation are also escalating the risk of cybercrime. For the next 8 minutes, we will unpack this paradox. We will also explore the potential risk of AI-powered hacking and discuss how AI is revolutionizing both hacking and cybersecurity. And also we will look at the challenges. We will delve into the strategies and solutions being developed to navigate this complex landscape. And then we understand the paradox of progress and how we can navigate the future of AI, cybersecurity, and business. Let's get started. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's discuss the complex nature of innovation, especially in AI and ChatGPT. These technologies are transforming our world, but they are also opening doors for cyber criminals. AI is being used for sophisticated attacks, automating vulnerability discovery, and even engage in AI versus AI battles. Even ChatGPT can be misused for social engineering attacks. So how do we counter these threats? We need advanced cybersecurity strategies, AI-powered solutions, secure AI design, and quantum cryptography, regulation and standards. They're all crucial, and we must invest in cybersecurity education as well. As we harness AI power, we must stay vigilant about risk. By investing in advanced cybersecurity and promoting responsible AI use, we can enjoy innovation benefits while mitigating cybercrime dangers. Next slide, please. Okay, let's touch on crucial topic, the significant threat of AI-powered malicious hacking. AI, including models like ChatGPT, is advancing rapidly, but this progress bringing potential misuse. We are looking at risks like automated thought attacks, where AI exploits system weaknesses faster than any human hacker, and social engineering attacks, where AI creates hyper-realistic deep fakes to trick the people. We also face adaptive attacks, where AI learns and adapts and strike again, and AI-powered phishing, where AI generates personalized scam emails, and the risk of AI creating undetectable malware. And lastly, AI-powered botnets that could lead to more damaging attacks, such as AI-driven DDoS attacks. So these threats pose serious risk to businesses and individuals, and threatening systems, stealing the data, and compromising privacy. So to mitigate these risks, it's crucial to invest in AI-powered cybersecurity solutions. As we navigate this digital age, let's stay alert and proactive against AI-powered malicious hacking. Next slide, please. So let's delve into the double-edged sword of AI in our current reality, particularly in cybersecurity and hacking. AI is both friend and foe in cybersecurity. It's helping us detect threats in real time, predicting future attacks, and automating tasks. But it's also being weaponized by hackers for phishing attacks, automated hacking, and adaptive malwares. So how do we tackle this? We must need regulation for AI use. We must need investment in research to outsmart hackers. And also we must need education to empower everyone against AI-powered attacks. In essence, an AI revolutionized cybersecurity and hacking, we must prioritize safety and ethics. Next slide, please. So here, I want to highlight how AI is not just a threat, but also a powerful ally in cybersecurity. AI-powered security solutions are on the rise in the industry. For instance, machine learning is used to spot anomalies in network traffic, acting like a vigilant guard. Right? Natural language processing, it sifts through emails and root out malicious ones. And also deep learning classifies malware, identifies source and purpose. Reinforcement learning trains security agents to adapt to ever-changing threats. Generative adversarial networks, GANs, they create a synthetic data for testing and training security systems, enhancing their robustness. I would say that AI in cybersecurity is a beacon of hope, but it requires our constant vigilance and innovations. Hackers are always seeking new exploits, so we must stay one step ahead. Next slide, please. Let's discuss a unique cybersecurity challenge, adversarial AI, where AI systems attack other AI systems. To tackle this, we need a strategic approach. We need a robust AI design, trained on a diverse data, and prepared for unexpected inputs. Our AI should learn from mistakes and adapt to new adversarial tactics. Regular security updates are also crucial to identify vulnerabilities. Collaboration and information sharing can strengthen our defenses. So clear Regulations and standards should guide AI use in cybersecurity. Lastly, education and awareness are vital to understand and mitigate adversarial AI threats. Remember, cybersecurity is a continuous battle. As threats evolve, so should our defenses need to evolve too. Next slide. Let's delve into the complex nature of AI progress in cybersecurity. While we use AI to enhance security, we must also guard against its misuse. We need secure AI systems, rigorous testing, and regular updates. AI in cybersecurity measures bolster our defenses with AI-powered threat detection and automated responses. And education is the key. As AI threats evolve, we must keep users informed and trained, and we cannot forget about regulation and ethical guidelines to punish AI misuse and guide AI development. In essence, navigating this paradox is crucial for the future of cybersecurity. We must responsibly harness the power of AI, stay vigilant about risk, and take proactive measures. Let's touch on the future implications of AI-powered hacking for businesses. Imagine this, AI is advancing rapidly, making hacking techniques more sophisticated and harder to detect. Businesses are at high risk than ever. Zero-day attacks exploiting unknown vulnerabilities could become the norm. And if an AI system controlling critical infrastructure is compromised, the consequences could be severe. But there is a hope. The same AI advancement that enable attacks also provide powerful defense tools. AI systems can predict, prevent, and respond to attacks in real time. So what's the strategy for businesses? Stay ahead of the curve. Invest in AI-powered security solutions. Keep systems updated and continuously monitor for threats. It's a challenging landscape, but with the right approach, we can navigate it successfully. Thank you.
You're muted, Brian.
Brian, you're muted.
Thank you very much. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Reddy, for your informative presentation. I look forward to the Q&A, perhaps selfishly, because I have many questions for you and the rest of the panel. I want to encourage those of you in the audience to please don't be shy about asking questions that you might have. Don't worry about feeling like, you may not know enough about the subject matter to feel like, asking the right kinds of questions. Please, now's your opportunity to speak to these subject matter experts and hear what they have to say, even if you're just representing somebody who's just a member of the general public and not necessarily a specialist in this area. Let's go on to our third and final speaker for this session. That's going to be Dr. Abhishek Parakh, and he is representing Kennesaw State University's Ph.D. in computer science program. Take it away, Abhishek, whenever you're ready.
All right, so I'm going to share my slides. I hope it works. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, looks great.
All right, okay. So yeah, I decided to talk about cryptography. Obviously, I work in cryptography, but often in cybersecurity discussions or cybersecurity conferences that I've been to, cryptography kind of gets pushed into a corner because it is so well packaged and it is pervasive that nobody really thinks about it too much anymore. But cryptography right now, I think, is going through a revolutionary phase. There are new standardizations happening for defense against quantum computing, as well as many other new applications of cryptography, which have been proposed for a while, but there was no real need for adoption in industry until AI has emerged or machine learning has emerged at a larger scale. So typically when we think about cryptography, we envision end-to-end encryption between two parties, and that is the most basic functionality that cryptography needs to provide. However, since then, obviously, it has been expanded to many other applications, between encryption between multiple parties, which was a difficult solution to implement for a long time. But now Signal, WhatsApp, and all, they have very efficient implementations where you can have large groups that exchange encrypted messages, and the participants in that group can actually join and leave without having everybody change their encryption keys. So cryptography has definitely made quite a bit of progress towards that. And then the other services that cryptography provides is defense against listening, manipulation of data, masquerade attacks on the internet, as well as insertion of fake data. So it provides authentication, as well as a means to verify identity on the integrity and identity on the internet. So typically how cryptography has been developed in the past and still today as new standards are being proposed is they look for some kind of mathematical hard problems, right? So some of the interesting names you might have heard of is discrete log factorization, and the new problem that is being standardized as shortest vector problem, or learning with errors, and so on. Factorization is the most easily understood hard problem, where if you're asked to factor a large number into its prime components, then it becomes an exponentially increasingly hard problem as the numbers grow larger and larger. However, it is to be noted that there are no guarantees in cryptography. So most of the problems are assumed to be hard, and there are no proofs. So we kind of, so that also raises an interesting question that if you don't have any proofs that these problems are hard, then how are we building all these systems and giving some kind of guarantees? And that has been a very interesting challenge in cryptography, and the typical approach that has been used to provide some kind of a guarantee in cryptographic systems is that a cryptographic system is proposed, and then it is made available to the public to hack and attack and so on. And if reasonable time passes and we have enough confidence that enough number of smart people have looked at it and they haven't been able to break the crypto system, then we assume it is secure. So does that mean that now that AI and machine learning are so pervasive and fast and they can find patterns, can we now use AI and machine learning to find these patterns and break crypto systems as well? So what happens to the guarantees that were provided by smart people just looking at the crypto systems? So the other question that we can ask definitely with cryptography and machine learning is, can we develop new cryptographic systems, right? So not just attack cryptographic systems, but coming up with new cryptographic systems or patch holes in existing cryptographic systems. Machine learning typically depends on some kind of learnability, right? So you give it a lot of data, you give it, let's say, inputs and outputs of crypto systems and plain text, and then you ask it to learn some pattern. And let's say it's not able to learn any pattern. So does that provide enough proof that it is a good cryptographic system? So far, machine learning has been quite unpredictable. Just think about random numbers, right? So typically cryptography provides functions to generate random numbers. You use it for gambling, to encryption key generation and lottery online and so on. Lots of different uses of random numbers. And one of the things that you have to do with the random numbers is try to find patterns in the outputs. Typically, there are other standardized test suites that look for statistical anomalies in the random numbers, but the question is now if you can actually let loose AI and ML on them and see if it can find patterns. Does that provide any level of guarantee? So typically it is not so far accepted as a rigorous method of proving anything, right? So, but it does provide a bridge between brute force analysis and pure cryptanalysis, right? So let's say if you have a new crypto system, brute force analysis is just trying to find all kinds of different tricks to reproduce that output. But however, cryptanalysis actually looks at mathematical formulations of that system. So can we do something in between and then use AI to actually increase or bridge this gap that exists? Now the other, so the flip side of it is obviously, can cryptography actually aid in machine learning, and it's specific and more specifically in safe machine learning, right? So the power of machine learning comes from data of individuals, and obviously, if you provide more and more data of individuals to these algorithms, then what happens? What about privacy and confidentiality and so on? So, so cryptography can, well, at least theoretically so far, provide some guarantees on privacy and confidentiality of data, so such that machine learning algorithms can actually run on them. without compromises. The other thing that has become quite prevalent is adversarial machine learning, right? So there are ways to obviously trick the machine learning model to actually be different than what it should be by inserting malicious data into the training data set, as well as, let's say, you give your data to a company to actually produce a model, and then they give you some model back because it's their secret recipe for training. However, how do you check, or how do you have guarantee that actually that model was trained on your data? So cryptography over the last 20, 30 years has provided lots of different solutions, right? So provable computation, guarantees in model checking, and so on. So the question is, can cryptography then be extended to provide guarantees that, okay, the model that you were given back by this company that trained it on your data actually trained on your data, right? So not on some other random data. Now, just to bring it a little bit, to a practical level, for example, U.S. Census data, which collects a lot of private information, right? So of individuals, the number of people, so sometimes social security numbers, age, and birth dates, and so on. That is a privacy nightmare for the government to manage, and then they have to release some parts of it actually as public data because it affects public policy, funding, and so on. So since 1970s, the government has been, adding random noise to the data that has been collected, and then, releasing some noise-adjusted data to give some privacy assurances at least. But there was no guarantee, mathematical guarantee, that actually privacy was being preserved by adding random noise the way they were doing it for the last 50 years. But since 2010, U.S. government has actually adopted the notion of differential privacy. It's a very well researched notion in cryptography, and it actually provides quantifiable guarantees on the privacy leakage versus amount of public inferences that you can actually release about the data. So it's a very practical solution, and it is being used in a very large scale at this point. In fact, there are other solutions like homomorphic encryption that is quite popular. It's getting more and more practical. It was proposed in 2009, but machine learning can actually process homomorphically encrypted data without actually disclosing anything about the data. And then something that Apple tried to do and actually have an implemented solution, but look at your pictures on the iPhone, that technique was called private set intersection to basically match pictures from your iPhone versus the FBI pictures for various reasons, as well as secure multi-party computation. So there are lots of solutions that cryptography already provides. But we have to keep in mind that there's
I'm sorry to interrupt, Dr. Parakh. I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you go over the high points of the rest of your slides? Because we only have about 10 minutes remaining in the session. I want to allow at least a few minutes for Q&A.
Sure. So the big, bad boy in town is ChatGPT. So we haven't found any great uses for ChatGPT yet in cryptography, right? So, but there are open questions, right? So can you actually use ChatGPT to analyze cryptographic protocols for security and provide composable security? However, so far, at least ChatGPT is not very useful because cryptography is really an art and not a mechanically or data-driven task that can be learned. So unless AI actually demonstrates non-algorithmic reasoning or out-of-box approaches, we don't know how long that road is. So.
I think thank you very much. I think it's important to still, address the question because it's going to be asked. Speaking of asking questions, I want to go right to the Q&A. It looks like Neelam Sharma has asked a question. AI can cause security vulnerability by causing machine learning or machine generated attacks. Question is, can AI also block those attacks? Is that what generative AI is? And I'll allow the panel to, feel free to jump in on that. That's going to tie into like a more abstractified, generalized question that I have that focuses on the same thing. So anybody care to address the question? What is generative AI? Can it be used for detection or blocking of attacks?
I'll take this question. So, yeah. So yes, AI can indeed, it can be used to enhance cybersecurity measures or defenses, and also help block attacks, including those potentially, generated by AI systems, right? Typically, AI can be used in various ways in cybersecurity: anomaly detection, predictive analytics, automated response, vulnerability management, and threat intelligence, so on, right? But as far as generative AI is concerned, it focuses on creating new data that is something similar to some provided input data, right? So in the context of cybersecurity, generative AI could potentially be used in various ways. For example, it could be used to generate new malware samples for testing purposes, right? So, or to generate realistic network traffic for training intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems. However, generative AI doesn't inherently block attacks. So it's just a tool that can be used in various ways depending on the specific applications.
I really appreciate that answer. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. To sort of take this in what I think is an appropriate direction, given the context, let's just talk a little bit about machine learning at a bit of a higher level. In my experience, most machine learning courses, I think it's going to pivot. I think it's going to change in light of the rise of generative AI. But most machine learning courses, they're historically focused on supervised and unsupervised learning for clustering, classification, recognition, discrimination, that kind of machine learning. But because generative AI is a sexy new thing, it's what's part of the public discourse, people new to the field might want to jump right into neural networks and other generative approaches and maybe skip the basics of discriminative machine learning, like nearest neighbor classification, k-means clustering, and even simple linear regression. Any of the stuff that I think is fundamental to the automated detection of anomalies and threats. And some of those people may skip out on the basics of probability and statistics that are fundamental to many machine learning approaches. So really appreciate what Dr. Parakh mentioned, which is like time may be better spent just learning the math. So for anybody who cares to respond, what do you think is the most appropriate path for learning data mining, machine learning, AI for cybersecurity specialists, or maybe new students in computer science in general, for the general public, others who are in the audience today? What would you suggest?
From my side at the Georgia Tech Research Institute perspective, at least, it's very interesting to see the advances that we have, both from the attack and detection methods. But I think it needs to be balanced as well with realism. We have a lot of very novel attack methods and very novel detection methods. But in the vast majority of the world, it's still the simple stuff that trips people up. So I think it's good that we keep advancing this. We find the best methods. We keep instructing and teaching these. But at the same time, we also have to meet people where they are today as well. We've got to balance these two appropriately as we move forward.
As long as we're on the subject of meeting people where they are, I have mixed feelings about this sort of move towards passwordless logins and the use of passkeys. I think they can be useful. And, as the comp sci person, and somebody who has to be responsible for the teaching of cybersecurity, I embrace much of that. But for the general public, do you think that some of this is going to introduce a bit too much of a sense of complacency that could result in us letting our guard down when it comes to personal responsibility, even coming up with good, strong passwords, not using them on the same websites? What's your take on that?
So, I can maybe take a shot at that. So, password security has kind of been in the realm of cryptography for a long time, and time and again, it has been proven that actually Yeah, complexity of password does matter, but it does not, like, for example, Google doesn't require you to have a minimum length of password, right? So like, and does not ask you to change your password so often. So there are other measures that need to be in place to protect from hacking and release of password databases and so on, that provides better guarantee than forcing the user to change passwords and not using last 5 passwords and so on. So those added complexity, and that is part of the reason it was moving away from passwords for a long time, because but those things were not adding, but actually hindering the use cases. In most cases nowadays, we're just logged in nonstop, right, on our computers, and it's just one-time login. So these things are receding towards the back end, but definitely, you know, you have to have some minimum level, and beyond that, I think more systems have to be hardened in the back end rather than the front end.
Very good, very good. So we've this session, we've just got a couple minutes left. This session has focused largely on AI, and there's been some application areas in, you know, kind of specific knowledge domains. Not every cybersecurity specialist is necessarily going to have any training in engineering or manufacturing, possibly not even, you know, a course in machine learning necessarily. So what would you recommend to, you know, current cybersecurity professionals who've already gone through, you know, the certification process? You know, they've mastered network security and that sort of thing. What would you recommend to those, as well as students who might not, both professionals and students who might not have specific domain knowledge? Should they be skilling up at all in these areas, or is just like a little knowledge dangerous? Should it be left up? Is it incumbent upon the domain specialists like Kyle, for example, you know, who is an engineer, who, you know, is also in the cybersecurity field? What should generalists be learning when it comes to these specific knowledge domains?
Maybe I'll take a start of that with just a short comment. I think it's almost the personal relation skills as well as the influence skills when you're trying to get people to adopt these technologies. It's not only knowing how to do it, but it's convincing everyone else in your organization to follow suit as well. So maybe even on the softer skill side, development as you're trying to deploy the right mechanisms. I'll turn it over to the rest of the panel members.
What the rest of y'all think?
No, I think learning the basics is still the most important thing. These are just add-on information, right? For example, I've been testing ChatGPT for various other things, especially quantum cryptography, and it just makes up stuff, right? So it just makes up stuff, makes up calculations which look really accurate, and then you try to fight against it, and say, no, this is not accurate because I don't, you know, and it just recants whatever it said, and it gives you another calculation that looks almost right. So we are far away from these things. I think learning the basics at this point, at least for foreseeable future, is going to be more beneficial than using these technologies. They are fun on the internet at this point.
They can certainly be amusing, I think. Dr. Reddy, like I want to finish up with you because it reminds me of a question that I think is relevant to you, and in particular the Udemy course that you're teaching right now. And you know, I did selfishly jump right to the lesson on the use of ChatGPT in the context of cybersecurity, and I noticed that you had to be very conversational about this and point out, okay, like this code that you've generated is wrong or could be improved. Can you comment about, like, you know, how you breeze through that like an expert, like a boss, okay? But not everybody's going to know to recognize when something is wrong. How did you develop your sort of sense for that?
Yeah, you know, as we all know, theoretically, AI can be used in various ways to enhance cyber attacks, like automating the discovery of vulnerabilities and, you know, enhancing the social engineering attacks with NLP or ML2 aware detection system. But actually, the use of AI in cyber attacks requires significant technical expertise and resources, right? So right now, which may, you know, which limits to it, so you use to very advanced and well-funded threat actors. So So it's very important to remember that, while AI can potentially enhance certain aspects of cyber attacks, but it doesn't fundamentally change the nature of these attacks. So the point here is that we need to spend a lot of time on this, and then we have to build our technical expertise and resources, because the way we utilize AI code which is generated by the even ChatGPT requires significant expertise, because we must know, because it doesn't give just like that. If you ask it, okay, generate exploit code, I want to target some SQL injection attacks in the web application, so it's a web application, right? So it generate it. So you must know what kind of pattern you need to choose, and what kind of prompt you. So there are certain expertise is required where to guide that your AI application, or like a ChatGPT, to generate appropriate responses or requests and responses. So yeah.
Very, very good. So, well, I think we're going to have to leave it there. Would love to keep this conversation going. To Dr. Saleeby, to Mr. Reddy, and to Dr. Parakh, it's really been an honor to have the chance to chat with you today, and to introduce you to everybody who's in attendance today. I hope that what you've mentioned today, the lessons that you've shared with us, even keeping things simple, recognizing that the simple stuff will trip you up, mastering the basics, knowing your soft skills, can certainly go a long way. So thank you very much. I'll give you a virtual round of applause on behalf of the attendees. And again, thank you very much for your time. I'll turn it back over to Ani. Thank you.